Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way, where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. This is part 4 of my Haunted Pumpkin series, and this is also the final part. And in this video we're going to go ahead and finish out the final details and the final inking of the picture. The app that I'm going to be using is Infinite Painter for Android. If you want to get an idea of some of the original materials that you can use if you follow along traditionally, check out part 1 in this series, and I show a few examples of the things that you can use. So we want to go ahead and go ahead and start adding dark brown ink to the painting. And here is something I can do digitally that you can't do traditionally. And what I wanted to do was start a new layer and see what looked better. Would it look better if I inked in the eyes and the mouth and made them all look dark? Or would it look better if I kept it yellow and made it look like there was light in the pumpkin? So that's what I wanted to do here, was go ahead and look and see if see what would look best. So you can turn the layer on and off there, and that shows you what it's going to look like. And so you can do this traditionally by putting tracing paper over it maybe, and just seeing what it would look like, or maybe a clear type of plastic and just painting in the eyes and the mouth and seeing what it would look like darker. And here I decided that I liked the light in the pumpkins. I wanted the pumpkins to be lit up. I thought that just looked a little bit better. So here I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the dark layer and work on the other pumpkins, and I wanted their eyes to be lit up too. So I went ahead and added the yellow to their eyes, and you can do this traditionally using gouache if you want to, or if you have an acrylic ink, you can use an acrylic ink and go ahead and make that opaque and put the yellow on the pumpkin's eyes, and then they'll look really bright yellow. Or you can kind of use a gel pen too. The gel pens will also draw over watercolor. So I wanted to go ahead and add that to that second pumpkin, and then I was going to work on the third pumpkin and add the outside with a brown ink type, probably a burnt umber type of a color there. Anyway, we want just kind of a brownish ink, and then you can go ahead and make sure that you draw the lines in for the pumpkins. That just gives it more detail there. And then I added some more lines to the bottom to make it look more shadowy, and then I went ahead and lightened the eyes there with the yellow. And I'm still using the Manga Inker and Infinite Painter because I like that as my brush. And so I'm just adding the highlights to the eyes. And then I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit of dark on the bottom of the pumpkin, and add some type cross-hatching lines there, and then add a little bit of some white to the teeth. That just kind of makes them show up. And again, if you're following along traditionally, your gel pen would work for this, and probably some acrylic ink or some gouache. And I just wanted to kind of do that to make them show up a little bit better. And then I wanted to go ahead and start inking the pumpkin on the other side of the pumpkin ghost. And so I'm working on the shape of the eyes, and I wanted triangular eyes for that one. So I'm adding a little bit of the brown ink for that. And then, of course, I wanted the eyes lit up. So I'm adding the yellow ink in the eyes and in the mouth. And I like the idea of a triangular mouth for that pumpkin. So I wanted to go ahead and add that in there. And then add a little bit of some shadow on the side. Draw the pumpkin lines that show the curvature of the pumpkin there. And if you mess up, you can fix it in digital. If you're doing this traditionally, you can get out your acrylic or your gouache and kind of paint over the ink a little bit. But it's best if you be really careful there at the end when you're inking. And try not to mess up if you're doing this traditionally. So I'm just kind of adding a little bit more shadows to the pumpkin there with some sketchy lines on the ink, and then I wanted to go ahead and work on the pumpkin next to it. And I gave the eyes sort of a diamond shape for that pumpkin. And again, you would use the sepia ink or sepia colored ink type or burnt umber or something. Depends on the name. Some of them just say brown. So it will depend on your pen or the ink bottle that you're using as to what name that it will have. But you want kind of a darkish brown ink, but maybe not too dark. And so I'm just kind of working on trying to get some shadows on the top of the pumpkin there, and shadows on the left side because it's the moon will be shining from the right side, so, and also the ghost may be giving off some light and the pumpkin next to it a little bit. And then the last pumpkin is going to be kind of off by itself a little bit, and so you want to go ahead and make it have a little bit of some dark on both sides, maybe the final pumpkin, because it's going to be off to itself. And so anyway, I'm putting in a lot of sketch lines for it and doing a lot of shadowing for it. And then of course I wanted the eyes lit up, so I'm adding yellow in the eyes and the mouth, and of course that makes it light up though and gives it a glowing look. And then I want to go ahead and add a tiny bit of white for the teeth on that one, just for some interest. And then I decided that I had made it a little too dark, a little too sketchy, so I wanted to go ahead and go back over that a little bit. And like I said, you can use gouache or acrylic if you have to do this traditionally. Digitally, it's a lot easier. You just can erase it. Just make sure that you put your inking on a separate layer. You want to go ahead and have your paint on one layer and put your ink on the separate layer. And so here I'm just kind of again looking to see if I wanted the dark colors, and I don't. So and then I think I had a crash with that it actually crashed, and I had to go back and start the program up again. But it usually doesn't. It's pretty, the program is pretty stable, but every now and then there will be a little bit of a crash. And so anyway, I wanted to go ahead and start working on the ghost pumpkin. And so I'm just kind of trying to erase some of the pencil lines and then go back over it with probably a black color of ink, and maybe some dark blue or something. I kind of want just a little bit of a different look there. And so Then for the pumpkin, of course, we want to go back to our regular brown color. And so I'm trying to get the sepia color there and just do in the eyes. And I decided that I would probably have those lit up as well, just like I did with all the other pumpkins. And it just makes it look more, I don't know, glowing type. Anyway, I just liked the yellow eyes better because the jack-o'-lanterns are all lit up then, and that just gives it more interest to the painting. So I'm working on kind of the shape of the pumpkin there just a little bit. I wanted to refine not look quite so sketchy, refine the lines there, and so I'm working on that, and then putting in the lines of the pumpkin, the grooves that give it the curved shape there. Just kind of adding a little bit of some cross hatching to the side because the moon is to the right of it, and so anyway, I wanted to go ahead and do that, and then I wanted to go ahead and just do that on the other side a little. The moon is kind of behind it, so it might give a little bit of some shadows on the side there. And then, of course, it's going to be lit up, though, from inside with the candle that would be in the middle. So I'm just trying to get kind of that look, and I'm working on the top of the pumpkin to show that they've cut the top of it off. And then I just wanted to work kind of on the body of the pumpkin and go back in and work on the transparency look. You kind of want to give it a transparent look, and but let a few things show through. And I wanted to go ahead and add some grass there, and I was using a kind of a dark brown for that. And then I want to go ahead and ink the moon in, even though I used a pretty dark pencil for that. I want to go back over it with either a black or a pretty dark brown there, and just kind of give it a more defined shape kind of there, maybe a little bit sketchier. And again, I didn't like the lines were so dark, so I went ahead and erased that out. And so I would suggest keeping the moon on a separate layer too. And of course, if you're doing this traditionally and you want to make the lines not quite so dark, you can go over it with acrylic or acrylic ink or even gouache, and it won't matter if the lines show through it a little bit, because that'll give it kind of a sketchy look, and that adds to the painting sometimes. Unless you just want a really thick, smooth line. And so I'm just kind of working on the grass around the pumpkins, and you just want to draw some grass behind them and in between them, maybe a little bit over them to settle it down, to make it look like it's like they're all settled in the grass and the weeds and the oat field, whatever, the cornfield, wherever they happen to be, the pumpkin patch. And then I wanted some of the grass to go through the ghost. And of course you want to do this last if you possibly can, because you want to show a little bit of some detail through the ghost, but you don't want to show so much that it takes over the whole picture and covers up the ghost. You just want a few strands and make it look like he's transparent or semi-transparent. And so I'm just kind of working on the grass and trying to get that. And then I'm zooming in. You zoom in so that you can see how it looks and what you might want to add to it, or zoom out rather. When you want to look at it from a distance, you zoom out. And so that's what I'm doing there, and I'm adding a little bit of some detail to the ghost body, just some little lines that kind of give it the suggestion of curls of vapor or something of that sort. You just want a little bit, but don't put too much on there, because if you put too much on there, you're going to lose your transparent look. So this was a lot of fun. And I also added, right there at the end, I added some scraggly bushes in the corner and stuff to make it look more, give it a little more depth. So, and add a little bit of grass along the pathway and just make it have a little bit more depth. So this is the end of my Haunted Pumpkins series, and this was my contribution for Inktober and October. If you do traditional Inktober, you're supposed to do a drawing every day, but I usually don't get that far. I usually am pretty good if I can get one for the month, but it's just a lot of fun, and I like to at least try one little drawing for Inktober. And also, I'd like to say that if you will go to the Infinite Painter Instagram page or the Infinite Painter website, Sean has a whole bunch of brushes that he designed especially for Inktober. And I actually did this before he did all those brushes, or I would have used it in this video, but I didn't get them till afterwards. But they're a lot of fun, and they have gold leaf brushes and all kinds of India ink brushes and some really neat stamp brushes with squid tendrils and bats. And so definitely go ahead and check that out. It's at the Infinite Painter website, or it's on Instagram, and you follow Infinite Painter on Instagram. So thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below. If you want to see what we're going to do next, hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you later.